Welcome to another episode of the All Tens Podcast. I'm your co-host, Josh West, as always, here with Clay Harris. And today, Clay, we're continuing our series on the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer, all 8 questions. We are now at question number 7. What are your quarterly rocks? And first, Clay, let's just, for our listeners, define what a rock is. What's a rock?
What is a rock? You tell me. You're not even supposed to tell me when you're going to ask me very specific questions. What is a rock? What is a rock? What we think of rocks is the things that you need to get done in the next 90 days that will propel us closer to fulfilling our 1-year plan. Some people call them projects. I don't know what quarterly goals. I don't know. Do you have a better definition? You just hit me out of nowhere with that.
Well, I mean, this is live. We're in the podcast, Clay. This is the business we're in.
Okay.
Do we need to start this over?
No, this is real. When I'm in the room, what I say is, what do we need to accomplish in the next 90 days that will propel us closer to making sure the 1-year plan happens?
Absolutely.
I don't put
90-day business priority.
Okay, thank you. I knew that you had an answer that you were looking for. 90-day business priority. There you go. Webster's Dictionary.
Well, see, that's what makes us great, though.
Uh-huh.
We're different, Clay.
We are different. So, 90-day business priority. Thank you, Josh. That's what it is, man. You sit there when we're setting rocks with the leadership team. We're doing the same thing we just did in the 3-year picture. We did in the 1-year plan. Now we're just setting rocks. The time frame is just different, but we're starting in the same place. We're going to start with numbers. We're going to predict the quarter. What is it going to look like from a revenue, profitability, any other measurables that you have deemed important? What does that look like at the end of the quarter? But then we're going and saying, like, all right, what are the 3 to 7 top priorities that we have to get done this quarter? And we go through that exercise. We got to make them smart, like you said earlier. Josh, I'm going to ask you in a second to tell us what smart means because I know you love it. But that's what we do. And again, it's the same thing. If you listen to the last episode, it's not that different. Instead of setting them with a year time frame, we're setting them with a 90-day time frame. And you got to flex those simplify and predict muscles to make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time in a way that you understand. You can tell whether it's done or not. I'm leaching into smart definition here. But 3 to 7 is the goal, and less is more. Focus matters. That's the way I teach it in the room. Of course, it takes a few hours, but that's the simple version. Tell us what smart means. So you're setting rocks with a team, Josh, and you're like, I want you to make them smart. And they're like, well, we're smart. What do you actually mean?
What we mean is SMART is an acronym, and we mean specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And I'm not even going to go through all of those. I'll just say in just very clear terms, does everyone on the team understand what done looks like? What are we trying to do here? And if we can quantify it in any way and measure it and not say, well, we're going to hire people. Oh, how many is that? Are we going to hire 3 or 4 people in that position? Let's be very specific and measured in that. Can this be done in 90 days? Do we have all the tools and resources necessary to accomplish that? And finally, is now the right time to do it, right? All of those other conditions could be met, but this comes back to that prioritization, right? And also when we're working with teams in support of those 1-year plans, 3-year pictures. And so this could be done in any 90-day period, but is now the right one? Is it timely? Is this an absolute priority right now? And so for all of the ideas that teams have, if you begin to put it through all of those filters and then get it down to a set that you can really focus on, then that's that small set of priorities that you can really focus in on and get accomplished.
Let me ask you a question. So when you're setting rocks with a team, when we do this exercise, everybody writes down what they say. We do it. We throw them on the board. We do keep, kill, combine to kind of figure out what the group believes the top priorities are. And often you end up with, there's 6 or 7 things that get combined into one rock. Yeah. Pretty typical.
Yeah.
And so you end up, you're like, all right, well, these are kind of all around sales, right? And so in our sales rock this quarter, there's 5 or 6 things happening, right? Is that your experience too?
Sure, because everybody's got kind of that different idea. And then, you can really kind of clown car trying to write it smart.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when that happens, that's when we have to like come back out of it, and sort of the prompts, and the word that I like to use is spirit. Or we're actually in a lot of cases also we're trying to solve an issue with that. People have decided that something needs to be done because what's underlying that is the issue. So then I just kind of prompt the team and like, okay, before we get more back into the specifics of writing it smart, and if it starts to kind of go off the rails, it's like, what was the issue that you had in mind? What was the spirit of what we were trying to accomplish? What are
Mm.
we trying to solve for here? And that usually allows the team to kind of come back and then really write something that is smart, but that is also crisp
I think
in
that's
that way.
ooh crisp. I like crisp. You should make up an acronym for crisp. Like that'd be your little thing.
Is it smart and crisp?
Yeah, yeah.
We'll work on
It's like
that.
a good apple. The yeah, that's interesting. I think I like that. I'm gonna use that more often. The idea that like sometimes the things that go up on those like perspective issues are simply issues, and if you kind of just, like we're actually doing what we tell them not to do, which is like kind of putting symptoms in the rock, right? Or like putting band-aids in the rock, not like kind of really resolving things at the course. I think that's a really interesting insight for our listener. If you're setting rocks and it's really just a list of issues to solve in the rock, back up a couple steps, get to the root or get to the spirit, as you called it, like of what that's there. What is the fundamental thing that we're going to do to make sure that we don't have to worry about this again in the future, right? Like I think that's really smart. I think the other thing that I see kind of, I think related to that is like, everybody you got, sometimes you're in a room and you end up with like perspective rocks that are like 20 things long, and you end up with 6 things around sales. And then people just say combine because they don't want to hurt feelings, right? They're like, yeah, throw it in the rock, whatever. Like, and so we end up with this kind of thing. There's not a string that ties through it. Maybe in a linear, like, I like rocks that make sense over time or whatever. Like you're building something. It's not just like a whole bunch of 18 different projects, right? Like I'm planting a tree over here and then we're going to fix the sidewalk on that side of town. And I don't get it. I think I said this in our previous podcast, but you want to tell a story. You need to create like rocks that not only are effective, but kind of compel people to like be excited about them. Right. And so if it's just like this weird constellation of shit that doesn't really go together, you're missing something. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and kind of in parallel to that, the point of writing smart rocks is not to be good at writing rocks smart, right?
Yeah. Right.
You listed out all of your issues, and as part of even suggesting rocks, we looked back at that 1 year plan, but we also looked at our list of issues. So don't miss the forest for the trees here, and be like, oh, I'm all caught up in writing it smart. It's like solve the issue if that's what you were trying to do, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's also what helps cut through some of that despaired feelings, or we'll just shove it all in there. It's like, well, hold on, right? And that's where, the facilitation of an implementer comes in to really help the team, um, like I say, not write a smart rock for the sake of doing so, but solve an issue and propel the company forward and help them become a healthier team.
100% agreed. Um, what else do we want to talk about rocks? It makes sense. Are we 3 to 7? I always say less is more. Flex those simplify and predict muscles
Well,
to make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time. What else?
I'll say one of my favorite things about EOS is the 90-day world, and
Mm,
rocks are a large part of that as that due date, because in organizations that, in my career in the past, where we didn't have any system whatsoever, if you're on a bad roller coaster ride, you never get off of it,
mm,
right? Like you just wake up and it's another day, it's another week, it's another month. And one of my favorite parts of being in session with clients at the quarterly is we come in, we check in, and then we immediately review that prior quarter. And then if I tell them everything that was great, everything that was good, everything that was okay, and everything that was bad, we've got to let it all go. And for the rest of the day, all we're concerned about is refreshing ourselves. And so being able to take that deep breath and really let it go. And I'm like, if you need to dance a jig because it was great, or you need to go screaming at pillow because it was bad, get it all out. We're going on break. And when we come back in the room, we're moving forward, and that's it. And
Yeah.
we're not revisiting it, and we're letting it go. And so just that reflection and then that deep breath really gets you to just take a fresh perspective and let everybody, let it go, so that you don't just feel like you're just bogged down and it's another day and we didn't get that opportunity. So I love that about the 90-day world.
It's a good one. It's profound. It's like, that's one of those things that, like, you probably should listen to that a few times, because one of the things that's buried in there, kind of not directly said, is that if you leave, when we create the 90-day world, it's because we're going to set rocks on day 1, and then you just go work your ass off for 89 days. If on day 14 and day 23 and day 64, you're coming back and be like, I wonder what we should be doing. What are the big projects that we should be doing? You're doing the thing where you're like not being clear to the organization. So rocks are there to set 90-day priorities. There's always an emergency eject button, right? But you shouldn't have to hit it often, right? And so, like, kind of putting things in the right place. We've done this work as a leadership team. Honor it. 90-day world exists for a reason. That's where we have that kind of organizational attention span. Energy is going to last that long. Trust that we'll come back in 90 days and do the next best things. Don't do it every 3 days, every 3 weeks. Trust that every 3 months is the right cadence for the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else before we go, Joshy? Those were good nuggets. You got more?
I'll share one more. As a leadership team member inside of an organization running on EOS, in my time prior to being an implementer, I distinctly remember my very first quarterly meeting where we set rocks, and I walked out of that room, and between the company rocks and the individual rocks that I was carrying, it totaled 7. And when we regrouped in 90 days, 2 of those things were done. And my nugget is, don't go to the grocery store hungry. Less is more. Be focused. I know that you're ambitious and you want to get a lot of things done, and you'd love to see those things get done, but that's simply not the reality. And if they really truly are rocks and it is going to take you 90 days, you can't have a bunch of them, and you're going to have to really focus in.
Preach for the people in the back. It's a good one. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our podcast. This is the All Tens podcast. I'm Josh. He's Clay. We have one more episode in our VTO series coming up, which is the issues list. And if anybody has a lot of issues, it's Josh. So you'll want to listen to that one. But we're so appreciative that you've listened. If you care to, like, comment, share, whatever it is you do on podcasts these days, we'd love feedback. We want to know what you want to hear about. We like talking to each other, and we'd love to have more things to talk about. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. I'm Clay. He's Josh. Good job, Josh. Bye.
Bye, Clay.